Tomorrow Never Dies came out on November 16th, 1999, developed by Black Ops Entertainment, published by EA and MGM. This would be the first of the EA reign over the 007 franchise, for better or for worse. Tomorrow Never Dies is a third-person shooter with ideas of stealth that aren't exactly fulfilled. Anyway, like I mentioned, I look for three things in a Bond game: gunplay, gadgets, and car combat. In the first generation here on PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, I'm not holding car combat as a standard. It's just the way it went. However, this one did have a car mission in it. Like, well, not a full car mission. It's actually the last half of one, but still, hey, baby steps. All right, so first I wanted to talk about the controls, and I wanted to do so for a specific reason. Yes, it is PlayStation 1, and it is a little clunky, but what I wanted to get in is the specifics. So the 8 buttons of the PlayStation 1 controller, the 4 shoulder buttons or the 4 face buttons, can be mapped any way you want, which I think is awesome. Anytime that a game offers you that, I love it. Play the game how you want, is kind of the mentality. When it comes to direction or movement, you have two options. If you just had a PlayStation 1 controller and that's it, then you just move with the D-pad. If you had the dual analog controller, dual shock controller, or are playing on it on the PlayStation 2 or 3, you have the option of using it in analog mode, which takes the movement from the D-pad to the left thumbstick, but not sharing it. It is literally taking it from it, so you can't do either or. Benefits of having the thumbstick, definitely that you can walk without needing to hold crouch. If you are playing it in digital mode with just the D-pad, you need to hold the crouch button to walk. All right, so now moving on to the buttons themselves. The lock-on. This is in an era right around the time that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time came out. And Ocarina of Time didn't invent the lock-on, but they mastered it. And they were like, here, tap it, and it is like this magic system that you are locked onto your enemy. Here in Tomorrow Never Dies, the lock-on is very weird. So it's like it locks onto your enemy. If they're running, it'll lock onto them for half a second, and then it was like, yeah, there they were. And if you're running, it'll lock onto them, but it was like, yeah, there they were again, but not where they are. And that was where it's like the lock-on wouldn't stay locked on, and so then you would tap it, and it's funny because then the lock-on would like go to another enemy, and that's where it can be jarring, because sometimes if the enemies were on the other side of you, it'll do a whole 180, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Oh, wow. Which is interesting considering how slow turn in third person or in first person is. To turn left or right is just incredibly slow and clunky. So lock on, and then I tried playing submissions where was I tapping instead of holding it? So no, I tried holding it, and no, holding it didn't do anything. In fact, no, it is a tapping thing where you tap it and it would like be like that guy. And so it works best in stationary to stationary. Yeah, I'm not moving and my enemy's not moving, and then it worked the best where it would be like, all right, lock on and shoot. So then the next button is crouch. Self-explained, it crouches. When you press and hold it while you're walking, or running, I should say, you walk, which isn't exactly stealthy, but it does help you turning corners. So then if you're holding it while you press either strafe button, you do a ninja roll. Ninja roll to the right, ninja roll to the left. So yeah, that also covers the strafe buttons. If you just press strafe, you run strafe right or left. Or if you're holding crouch, you ninja roll to the right, ninja roll to the left. We got fire weapon, fire gadget, and then the last one is select weapon or gadget. When you press and hold that button, it goes to the weapons in your bottom right-hand corner, and if you press left, it'll take you over to the gadgets, which will be the bottom left of the corner. With all that said, it is a clunky control style, and the game itself has a good learning curve where the first few levels aren't too hard, And then right when it kicks up the AI difficulty in right around like the fifth or sixth level is right when I started to get the controls. And by the seventh level, it was definitely like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, this is how lock on works. Ninja roll is really best for coming out of a corner to shoot your enemy. Um, yeah. First person and shooting enemies like really high up is very hard. You have to figure out other ways of doing that. Like it is clunky, but and then by those last two levels, it was definitely necessary using all of everything, all the buttons, everything you had learned, and I really did enjoy that. All right, speaking of the 10 levels, they're not just all running around and shooting, like I mentioned. This is the first one to have car combat. And it's the last half of one level, and it's pretty cool. You drive the 750 BMW series that was featured in the movie. You got guns and rockets, which is the beginning of car combat variety. Because in the Bond movies and in the later games, you have like oil slicks to drop behind you. You got smoke screens. You got little tactile stuff to flatten tires. There's a whole mixture of gadgets for the car that would later come. But, being the first time around, having two things, I was like, that's nice. It was a nice little change up. With that, you also got levels with skis. Bond is a skier. He's not a snowboarder. He's a classic. He likes the skis, or at least they've shown in the movies. I'm sure they'll change it up in the future. Anyway, so there's two levels with skis. In the first level, it's the second half of it. So it's like the tutorial level. Like, here's some shooting that we're introducing to you, and then here's a little skiing. Pretty easy. The second time you do the ski level, there is combat when you're on the skis, and you got to fight dudes. No shooting, just pushing. It's kind of lame. But still, it was a little fun. If I just decided to not even fight them most of the time and just try and figure out a way to ski and avoid them, and they would hit the trees because they're trying to get close to you, and if you just get close to a tree, I found it relatively fun. And on that level, I found that level to be one of the most fulfilling in that there were three sections to it. So you've got the ski part at the beginning, then you infiltrate a base, like where you're killing all the guys and opening some gates, and then you got a boss fight at the end. And as far as I was aware, that was the only level that had essentially three elements to it as what you were doing. Uh, and I was like, wow, that's reminiscent of a modern day like shooter where you got some missions and some stuff to do. I really enjoyed it. But then as the game got harder in the end of it, it just became not just a third person shooter, grind your way through these. With that, the gunplay, oh man, it was, yeah, third person clunky. The targeting is hard. There is no variety in guns. You have one silenced pistol, one submachine gun, one assault rifle, one rocket launcher. That's it. One, and that's it. There's also no reloading. It's really interesting when you have like one round left in your gun and you're like, do I just fire it off randomly so I can reload now? Or do I jump around a corner, shoot an enemy one time, and then reload while he's like turning to be like, hey, who shot me? You're like, hey, there you are. And so no reloading sucks. Um, I did like the sound of the assault rifle. Just throwing that out there. That was a good sound effect, and you hear it a lot. So that was cool. For the realms of gadgets, this was the first time that the gadget button was used as a button versus fire weapon, and I really like that. In future Bond games, the gadget button becomes a staple. This is why one of those reasons why gadgets to me are so big is Bond uses gadgets. And in the first few levels, you did use gadgets. You used cameras, remote detonators, and I really enjoyed using that fingerprint scanner because I didn't realize it at first. I walked up to the door and the door's all, it's electronically sealed. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. And I thought I was stuck, so I put the level down a few times. And then I went through my gadgets and was like, all fingerprint scanner, walked up to the door and went, boop, and it opened. And I was like, that's Bond. Gadgets. And that was cool, but then by the time you get around to the middle of the game, they just start becoming more and more scarce till the idea that by the last three levels of the games, you don't use any other gadgets other than health, and that's because health is relegated to an inventory slot in your gadgets. And even then, with one of those last three levels, one of those levels, you're not playing as Bond. So I really didn't mind that you didn't have gadgets for that level because I thought that was understandable. But when you're Bond, I want me some gadgets. Like I say, that's just part of what I want. And so this game had some in the beginning and then it just petered out. So, like its gunplay, it's all right. Little highlight, as I did mention, you did get to do the car combat. I thought that was pretty awesome. Super short, limit to the time and all that, but still a highlight. And the last highlight I wanted to mention was definitely the music. PlayStation over Nintendo 64 had basically CD level quality sound processing, and it was put to good use. Not only did you get Sheryl Crow's "Tomorrow Never Dies" during the opening credits, but then, yeah, the music, both in game and in menu, I found to be very, well, Bond appropriate for one, but then also just appropriate. Like, there's one where I was sneaking through hallways and, like, it was a lower beat number, and I was like, yeah, I like this. It's got a little pizzazz, but it wasn't like, you don't want to have a really upbeat song while you're like sneaking through a hallway because you're like, nah, this needs to be a little bit maybe more jazzy, but not like super techno, maybe during a fight scene or a battle, and this game's music was very appropriate for while you were doing what you're doing. So I did like the music. Coming to the end, summing it all up, yeah, go see the movie. With all that said, I will return with my review of The World Is Not Enough for the PlayStation 1. I think it's the sequel to this game. It's developed by the same studio and came out 1 year later in 2000. So yeah, we'll see you there.